Good morning, students. Today we'll be seeing chapter number 2 of geography, that is atmosphere. The first chapter, that is representation of geographical features, that I will teach you later, as it includes some practical teaching, I need to explain you practically the grid reference and measuring distance on the map, uh, and other such information has to be taught to you practically. So that's why we are just moving towards to the second chapter, atmosphere. So in this chapter you will be learning the introduction of what is an atmosphere. Then we'll also learn about the composition of the atmosphere, structure of atmosphere, greenhouse effect, impact of global warming, and ways to reduce global warming. So these are the 7 things which you are going to learn in this chapter. So let's start with the first one, that is atmosphere. So we very well know that atmosphere is mainly made up of air, right? What is atmosphere? It is mainly made up of air, and this air is a mixture of various gases and dust particles. Okay, so let's move to the composition of the atmosphere. Uh, Air, which is a mixture of various gases and dust particles, mainly made up of nitrogen, oxygen, argon, carbon dioxide, and other gases. So this is the percentage of the various gases available in the air. If you see, uh, it consists of 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, 1% argon, carbon dioxide, and other gases. Now we need to understand that air has weight and it exerts great pressure on Earth's surface. Okay, so based on that, atmospheric pressure depends on 3 main factors. They are altitude, temperature, and water vapor. One by one we will see. First one is altitude. As one goes up, the pressure of the air decreases. That is what you have to keep in mind about altitude, that as we go up, the pressure of the air decreases. Then the second one, that is temperature. When the temperature rises, air expands, that is, it becomes less dense and exerts less pressure. Okay. Generally, the lower part of the Earth, that is close to the Earth's surface, is much denser than the upper part. Okay, but when the temperature rises, then the air automatically expands and it becomes less dense and exerts less pressure. Okay, then next one is water vapor. Air containing water vapor is lighter than dry air. The more water vapor, the lighter the air. This is because water vapor in humid air displaces an equal volume of dry air. So here we need to understand that air containing water vapor is lighter than dry air. So if the air, it contains water vapor, then it is lighter than the air uh, which does not contain water vapor. Okay, now let's see the structure of the atmosphere. So the structure, uh, it consists of 5 layers. The atmospheric structure, it consists of 5 layers. Let's see one by one. The first one is troposphere, then the second one is stratosphere, third is mesosphere, ionosphere, and exosphere. So these are the different or 5 uh, structures of atmosphere. So let's see one by one. First one is troposphere. Now troposphere, it is the lowermost atmospheric layer in which we live. Okay, troposphere is the lowermost atmospheric layer in which we all live. Okay, uh, all the weather phenomena and that affects our life directly take place within the atmosphere. Okay, everything related to the weather, it all takes place in the troposphere. Now, the average height of troposphere is about 14 kilometer above the sea level, and its height varies from place to place and season to season. Uh, Under normal conditions, the height of the troposphere is about 8 kilometers at the poles and about 16 kilometer at the equator. So here we need to remember that what is troposphere? It is the lowermost atmospheric layer in which we all live. Okay, and all the weather related effects can be seen in the troposphere only. Then the average height is about 14 kilometer, and the height of troposphere under normal conditions, the height of troposphere is about 8 kilometer at the poles and 16 kilometers at the equator. Okay, along with pure dry air, this troposphere also contains water vapor. Now, what is water vapor? It is a colorless, odorless, gaseous form of water. Okay, and this water vapor, it perfectly mixes with other gases. Okay, now the degree to which water vapor is present in the air is known as humidity. The degree to which water vapor is present in the air is known as humidity, and water vapor condenses into clouds and fog. Okay, now if condensation is excessive, then rain, hail, snow or sleet, collectively termed as precipitation, may result. Okay, now what is this precipitation? Precipitation means uh, any kind of water particles, whether it is liquid or solid, that fall from the atmosphere. Okay, so this rain, hail, snow or sleet, these all are different forms of water particles, okay, that fall from the atmosphere after the condensation process. Then it is known as precipitation. Now this troposphere, it also contains particles of dust which serve as nuclear centers around which the water vapor condenses to form cloud particles. Okay, so that is all about troposphere. Now next we will move towards stratosphere. Stratosphere, its lowermost limit is at tropopause, and this layer is free of water vapor and dust. Okay, and it extends from 15 to 50 kilometer between 50 degree and 60 degree latitudes. We saw that in troposphere, uh, the average height of troposphere is about 14 kilometer. Okay, now this stratosphere, it extends from 15 to 50 kilometer. Okay, between 50 degree and 60 degree latitudes. Okay, and it is the lowermost limit of stratosphere, it at tropopause. Now in this layer the temperature does not change with altitude. We saw that previously that atmospheric pressure depends on three main factors: altitude, temperature and water vapor. And as we go up, the pressure of the air decreases. Here uh, the temperature does not change with altitude. In certain situations there may be slight increase in temperature with elevation. Then no visible weather phenomena takes place in this layer. Then cirrus clouds, called the mother of pearl clouds, are occasionally formed in lower stratosphere. So here cirrus clouds, which are also called the mother of pearl clouds, they form in the are occasionally formed in the lower stratosphere, the lower part of the stratosphere. Mm. One of the important feature of stratosphere is that it contains the ozone layer. Okay, you all must have heard about the ozone layer. Ozone layer, it protects us from the ultraviolet rays uh, that comes from the sun. Okay, now there is a maximum concentration of ozone, a vital gas, between 20 to 30 kilometer, and this region is thus called ozonosphere. So we saw that stratosphere, it is from extends from 15 to 50 kilometer, okay, between 50 and 60 latitude, and this ozonosphere is between 20 to 30 kilometer. Okay, so that's why it falls under stratosphere. This ozone layer presumed to be relatively stable over the past several hundred million years is now in a state of continuous damage. So the ozone layer is now in a state of continuous damage. Some kind of damage is being done to the ozone layer. About this we will be studying further in this same chapter only. Now moving towards the next one. The third one is mesosphere. We till now studied about troposphere and stratosphere. Troposphere, that is up to the height of 14 kilometer. Stratosphere, that is from 15 to 50 kilometer. And now this mesosphere, it is this layer, it lies between 50 kilometer to 80 kilometer above the Earth's surface. Now the meteors that from the space mostly burn up in this layer, creating shooting stars. So whenever a meteor, it tries to enter into the Earth's atmosphere, when it enters into the mesosphere, that is which lies from 50 to 80 kilometers, then what happens? This meteor, it burns up in this layer and it creates a shooting star. Okay. The next one is ionosphere, or also called as known as thermosphere. Now this thermosphere or ionosphere, it extends from 80 kilometer to about 450 kilometer. Okay. Now mainly ionosphere reflects the low frequency radio waves and absorbs the medium and high frequency waves. Thus this layer is especially important in long distance radio communication. Okay, ionosphere is especially important for long distance radio communication. Here in figure 2.3 you can see the different layers of ionosphere, the D layer, E layer and F layer. Okay, it extends up from 80 kilometer to 450. You can see at 150 kilometers you can see a rocket. Then at 250 kilometers you can see a space shuttle and as well as the radio signals. Okay, now we'll move towards the next one, that is exosphere. Exosphere is the outermost layer of the atmosphere, and the exosphere is highly predominant with rarefied hydrogen and helium gases. In the exosphere you will be able to see rarefied hydrogen and helium gases. Okay, so that is all about the structure of atmosphere. We saw troposphere, which is from height about 14 kilometer. Then we saw stratosphere, that is from 15 to 50 kilometer. Then we also saw about the ozone layer, which is ozonosphere, which is from 20 to 30 kilometer. The third structure, that is mesosphere, which is from 50 to 80 kilometer. Thermosphere 80 to 450, and exosphere, okay, which is the open space. Now we'll be moving towards our next topic, that is greenhouse effect. Greenhouse effect is so named because the Earth's atmosphere behaves like greenhouse roof. Now, why it has been named as greenhouse effect? Okay, because the Earth atmosphere behaves like greenhouse roof. Now, how does this greenhouse roof work? Like, it lets the greenhouse roof, it lets in the heat and then releases the heat slowly. Okay, the same way the Earth's atmosphere also, it absorbs, or means it lets in the heat and it releases the heat slowly. Okay, that's why it is known as greenhouse effect. Okay, the Earth's atmosphere, it absorbs the heat as well as it releases the heat. Now uh, many of the scientists and environmentalists attribute this global warming to be the greenhouse effect. Without it, the earth would be a frozen wasteland. Now, if this greenhouse effect didn't happen, then what would be the condition of the earth? It would be in a frozen wasteland. It would be frozen, okay, fully covered with ice. Now, the ultraviolet radiation coming from the sun penetrates thermosphere and is absorbed by the earth. The heat is absorbed and the energy is radiated back to the space. We saw that the Earth's atmosphere, it lets in the heat and releases the heat slowly. From where is this heat really actually generated? It is from the sun. Okay, so the this ultraviolet radiation which comes from the sun, it penetrates, it enters into the thermosphere, and it is absorbed by the earth. The earth absorbs the heat, the ultraviolet radiation which comes from the sun. Okay, and then what it does, the heat is absorbed and energy is radiated back to the space. It absorbs the heat and it releases the energy to the space. Okay, this is what it is done. Now the earth's atmosphere, it contains gases such as carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. Chemical formula for nitrous oxide is N2O. uh, these gases trap some of the outgoing radiations and thereby warm the earth. Now we saw the incoming and outgoing. Okay, the heat, the ultraviolet radiation is absorbed by the earth. The heat is absorbed and the energy is released. That is what we saw in the above paragraph. Now the earth, it contains some gases such as carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxygen. Now these gases, they trap, they hold some of the outgoing radiations and thereby warm the earth. When they have trapped the outgoing radiations, okay, the outgoing energy, then what will happen? It will warm the earth. Okay, these gases are known as greenhouse gases. So what is a greenhouse gas? Those gases which are trapped, okay, are trapped by the atmospheric gases is known as which warm the earth is known as greenhouse gases. Okay, now to maintain the global energy balance, both the atmosphere and the surface warm up until the outgoing energy equals the incoming energy. Now if you want to maintain it, then what it has to be, both the incoming and the outgoing energy has to be the same. The heat absorbed by the earth and the energy released has to be the same. But if the energy which is being released is trapped by some of the gases, and then what happens as a result, this warms the earth, right? These gases are known as, which are known as the greenhouse gases. Okay, so to maintain the global energy, both the incoming and the outgoing energy has to be equal. Okay, the incoming as well as the outgoing has to be equal in order to maintain the global energy balances. Recently, however, the concentration of greenhouse gases has risen rapidly due to the human activities leading to the global warming. Now, when the amount of outgoing gases is trapped by the various other gases which is present in the atmosphere, we saw that the earth, it becomes warm, and which is known as the greenhouse gases. Okay, we have studied recently that this greenhouse gases has risen rapidly. Okay, it has this gas has increased rapidly due to some of the human activities. Okay, which is leading to global warming. Now, when the amount of greenhouse gases increases in the atmosphere, then it leads to global warming. Okay, global warming means the rise of global temperature to a level which affects the life forms of the Earth's surface. Okay, now we'll see the next point, that is causes of greenhouse effect. We saw that some of the human activities are leading to global warming. Now we will see what are the causes of greenhouse effect in the next topic. In the above paragraph, I explained you that what is the reason of a greenhouse effect, right? The Earth's atmosphere, it contains such gases as carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide, and 2O, which are responsible for trapping some of the outgoing radiations, and because of that, it forms the Earth, and it causes greenhouse effect. Okay, so now we will see one by one. The greenhouse effect is caused when certain gases released in part through human activities rise into the atmosphere and trap the heat. Now these all gases are caused due to some of the human activities. Let's see one by one. First one is carbon dioxide. The chemical formula of carbon dioxide is CO2. It is the largest contributor to the global warming as it holds the largest share among the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Now this carbon dioxide is the largest contributor to the global warming. Okay, it holds the maximum number of percentage in the atmosphere. It contributes to the global warming as it holds the largest share among the greenhouse gas in the atmosphere. Now that is what we saw about carbon dioxide. Now chlorofluorocarbons are totally man-made greenhouse gases which come from refrigerators and farm. So now CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons, they are also man-made greenhouse gases which come from the refrigerators and farm. Now talking about the methane, which is present in the atmosphere, can see the largest sources of methane in the atmosphere are natural wetlands, rice fields, and livestock. Okay, natural gas production biomass burning, termites, landfills, and coal mining also releases methane into the atmosphere. So these are some of the man-made activities which increases the amount of methane into the atmosphere. It includes natural wetlands, rice field, livestock, then natural gas production, biomass burning, termites, landfills, and coal mining. Okay. The next one is nitrous oxide. It is released by the oceans and soils, but human activities such as biomass burning and use of fertilizers play a major role in it. Now, actually, this nitrous oxide is released by the oceans and soils. Okay, but uh, humans are also playing an important role in adding nitrous oxide to the atmosphere. The activities such as biomass burning and use of fertilizers. Okay, so use of fertilizers can give an increase of nitrous oxide into the atmosphere. According to the report by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, it is estimated that 72% of the global warming is contributed by carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. So because of these three gases, that is carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide, 72% of global warming is contributed by these three gases: carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. And for this global warming, uh, human activities is can be responsible. Now, moving towards our next topic, that is global warming. Now, what is global warming? Global warming means uh, the rise in the mean global temperature to a level which affects the life forms on the Earth's surface. Okay, when the global temperature, when it affects to the life forms on the Earth's surface, then it is known as global warming. Okay, now the temperature, if it is affecting you, okay, then it can be considered as global warming. And if the temperature is not affecting you, then it's not a global warming. The factors responsible for this warming may be both natural and man-made. Okay. Here in figure 2.5 you can see Earth and global warming. You can see the Earth is melting down. Okay, that means when do anything melts down? When it is actually heated up. Okay, when the temperature rises, things starts to melt down. Okay, so when the temperature affects the life forms on the Earth's surface, then it is known as global warming. Now, the factors responsible for global warming are both natural and man-made. Now, ozone is in the uppermost atmosphere is a major factor in making life on the Earth possible. We saw that ozone layer, which is present in the stratosphere, from ozonosphere also we studied that, which is from 20 to 30 kilometer. Then this, because of this ozone which is in the upper atmosphere, is the major factor in making life on the Earth possible. This ozone layer is responsible for making life on the Earth. Okay, this ozone layer, it lies in the stratosphere between 16 to 50 kilometer above the Earth's surface. Now we studied about the ozone layer. Now we are going to see the causes of ozone depletion. Okay. Uh, this layer shields us, means this layer it protects us from some of the ultraviolet rays from the sun. We very well know that the the sun emits out UV rays, which is known as ultraviolet rays, and this ozone layer it protects us, it acts like a shield and it protects us from the ultraviolet rays. With the passage of time, the ozone layer is becoming thin, allowing harmful ultraviolet rays from the sun to pass through the atmosphere. Okay, now we are studying about the causes of ozone depletion. Why? What are the reasons for ozone to deplete? Okay, here we see that with the passage of time, the ozone layer is becoming thin. Okay, the ozone is becoming thin, and due to that, what is happening? The harmful ultraviolet rays from the sun that pass through the atmosphere and it enters into the atmosphere. No one knows for certain what is causing the ozone layer to become thinner, but we do know that certain chemicals make ozone break down and disappear. So the actual reason for the ozone layer to become thin is still unknown, but what we know is that certain chemicals can make ozone break down and disappear. Okay. Uh, Now another cause of ozone depletion is the burning of forest fuel, emission of greenhouse gases due to burning of fossil fuels. Now this can also be the reason. First one is the chemicals. Okay, the chemicals can make the ozone break down as well as disappear, and another reason is the burning of forest fuel and emission of greenhouse gases. Okay, due to the burning of fossil fuels. When we burn these fossil fuels, then what will happen? It will also give rise to the emission of greenhouse gas. Okay, gases like carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. Now here you can see a figure 2.6 causes of ozone depletion. Okay. Um, Now, next, the chemicals used in aerosol spray, refrigerators, and making plastic cartons containing harmful chemicals called chlorofluorocarbons (CFCs). When a refrigerator is in use, the CFCs are safely contained, but when the refrigerator is thrown away or broken up, the CFCs are released into the atmosphere. So now we are talking about the depletion, the causes of ozone depletion. Now the first thing is we talked about was chemicals. The chemicals are also a reason for the ozones to break down and disappear. So the chemical used in aerosol spray. Okay, here we are talking about spray called as aerosol spray and refrigerators and making plastic cartons contains harmful chemical. Here we are talking about a harmful chemical called or named as chlorofluorocarbon (CFCs). Okay. Uh, uh, CFCs, which is present in the refrigerator, it is safely contained when the refrigerator is in use. But when when the refrigerator is thrown away or broken up, the CFCs, that is the chlorofluorocarbon, it is released into the atmosphere, which is harmful for the ozone layer. Okay. So effects of ozone depletion. You can see what are the different effects. What will happen if the ozone layer depletes? First one, As the ozone layer is destroyed or it becomes very thin, it fails to absorb the ultraviolet radiation. That is, we have already seen that the ozone layer, it protects us from the ultraviolet rays that comes from the sun. Okay, and if the ozone layer is destroyed, it is obviously, it will fail to absorb the ultraviolet radiation. Next, as a result, an increasing amount of ultraviolet radiation reaches the earth and causes damage to plant life, human beings, and marine life. So you can see here, when the ozone layer fails, what will happen? There will be an increased amount of ultraviolet radiation which will reach the earth. Till now, the ozone layer was blocking the ultraviolet rays, but if the ozone fails to absorb the ultraviolet radiation, then what will happen? There will be increase of ultraviolet radiation which would reach the earth, and it would cause damage to the life on the earth, okay, to the plants, to the human beings, and to the marine life. Now, skin cancer is caused, and the incidence uh, cataract also increases as a result of ozone depletion in the atmosphere. The body exposed to the infectious diseases. Now, because of this increasing amount of ultraviolet radiation, skin cancer can also be caused. Okay, and many kinds of infectious diseases can also be uh, uh, can also happen. Okay, then planktons, which are very foundation, which are the very foundation of the vast oceanic food chain, are also killed. Now, planktons, they are the basic foundation of the oceanic food chain. Okay, you know about the food chain. Same way, the ocean also, there is a food chain. And the plankton, okay, they are also killed. Here in figure 2.8, you can see the various results of ozone depletion, which may lead to harmful skin diseases. You can see exposed to us harmful ultraviolet rays of the sun. Now, what are the efforts to prevent ozone layer depletion? Now, what can we do in order to prevent or stop ozone depletion? The only solution to cope with the increasing menace is to put an end to CFCs, that is chlorofluorocarbon, uh, and other ozone depleting chemicals. The USA banned the CFC spray many years ago. Other countries are also slowly following. Uh, we should limit private vehicle driving, use eco-friendly household cleaning products, avoid using pesticides, ban the use of dangerous nitrous oxide, develop stringent regulations for rocket launches. So these are some of the things we need to implement in order to prevent the ozone depletion. Okay. CFCs, that is chlorofluorocarbons, has to be it has to be put to an end. USA has already banned it many years ago, and some of the other chemicals also need to be stopped. Okay. Along with that, we should limit the use of private vehicles. Okay. Then eco-friendly household cleaning products should be used. Uh, Avoid using pesticides. Then ban the use of dangerous nitrous oxide, and develop stringent regulations for the rocket launches. We need to develop some regulations for rocket launchings which is not harmful to the Earth's atmosphere. Now the next topic is impact of global warming. Now what are the results of this global warming? The first one is climate change. Okay, now what is this climate change? Climate change means the change in a climate over a sustained period of time. Okay, now this you must be experiencing a very different kind of climate, right, which includes instrumental temperature record, then rising sea levels and decreasing snow cover, right, in the northern hemisphere, changes in the rainfall patterns and the frequency of extreme weather events. Future climate change, future climate will be more very hot days and fewer cold days. The frequency, length and intensity of the heat waves will increase, and most land over the most land areas there is possibility that the average maximum wind speed of tropical cyclone will also increase. So now in the future uh, there will be more very hot days and fewer cold days. Okay, and uh, the heat waves will increase over most land areas. Now the next point is, the first one was the climate change. We generally experience a vast difference of climate change, right? We can see that the temperature day by day it is increasing. If you see a record of the past several years and the present years, then you will see a great difference in numbers of the temperature. Okay, you can also see that the rising sea levels and also can see the decreasing snow cover. Okay, you can also experience the changes in the rainfall patterns. Nowadays it even rains, it starts raining sometimes in the month of August or September. Sometimes we experience no rainfall. Okay, so this all are the different climatic change which are the impact of social warming. Okay, now the second one is oceans. Now oceans, the oceans serve as a sink for carbon dioxide. Now the oceans, they are just like a vessel for the carbon dioxide to sink in. Okay, now the increased level of CO2, that is carbon dioxide in the oceans, have led to ocean acidification. Now the increased level, we see that the oceans serve as a sink for carbon dioxide. Now uh, the carbon dioxide, it considers ocean as a sink, and then uh, because of that, what happens, the carbon dioxide is the carbon dioxide level is increased into the ocean. Now this increased level of carbon dioxide has led to the ocean acidification. Now ocean acidification, acidification means it is a process of making something sour. Okay, you very well know that the liquid or the water available in the oceans are sour, okay, or salty. Okay, so the process is known as artification, the process of making something sour or into the acid form. Okay, so that process is known as acidification. So the carbon dioxide, the increased level of CO2 into the oxygen, ocean, has led to the ocean acidification. Now, uh, about 30 to 40% of the carbon dioxide released by humans into the atmosphere dissolves into the oxygen. Uh, Among the overall carbon dioxide released by the humans, from that 30 to 40% is dissolved into the ocean, rivers and lakes. This increasing acidification of ocean makes it difficult for marine life such as corals and plankton. Acidification of oceans also poses threat to food chains connected with the oceans. Now we see that 30 to 40% of the carbon dioxide is dissolved by the uh, oceans, which is released by the humans into the atmosphere. Due to that, it makes it is difficult for the marine life as like such as corals and plankton. Then it also poses threat to the food chains connected with the oceans. So we saw about the impact of global warming on oceans. The first one we saw on climate change, right? The temperature, the increase of temperature, then rainfall patterns, then what will be the future climate change. That all we discussed in the first one. Then we saw the impact of global warming uh, on oceans, right? We saw that because of the increase in the carbon dioxide, it is giving rise to the ocean acidification. It is making the ocean water sour, acidic, right? And then it also affects to the marine life such as corals and plankton, okay? And it also poses threat to the food chains connected with the oceans. Now the third one, impact of global warming on bleaching of corals. You very well know, you must be aware of corals which we see in the oceans. Now bleaching of corals is due to the loss of microscopic algae which gives both colors and nourishment to the corals. Now bleaching means the color of the corals is being faded. It is because of the loss of microscopic algae. Okay, we already saw about that. It is already a threat, right? This carbon dioxide, CO2, which makes the ocean acidic, and it is also a threat for the marine life, right? Because of that, we can see a loss of microscopic algae, and this microscopic algae, it gives colors and nourishment to the corals. Okay. Now the next topic is effect on flora and fauna. Flora means plants and fauna means animals. Now these plants and animals react to warmer temperature by moving to uh, higher elevations and latitudes. Now we know that because of global warming, the temperature of the earth goes on increasing. So how do the animals react to this warming temperature? They move to the higher altitudes, elevation places, higher elevations or such places. Uh, a species loss and endangerment is rising along with global temperature. Many of the species have already endangered, okay, and it is all because of due to the global temperature. As many as 30% of plants and animals today risk extinction by 2050. So now by 2050, 30% of plants and animals are at risk of extinction. Okay, if average temperature rise by 6.4 degrees Celsius, such extinctions will be due to a loss of habitat through desertification, deforestation, ocean warming, and global warming. So, what are the different reasons for such species to come to extinct? It is desertification, deforestation, ocean warming, and global warming. These are some of the reasons for the extinction of some of the species on Earth by 2050. Okay. Now the next topic is destruction of ecosystem. Now, first of all, we need to understand what is ecosystem before understanding its destruction. Uh, Ecosystem is the interconnectedness of organisms, which may include plants, animals, uh, microbes, and with each other and their environment. Okay, this all includes into the ecosystem. So now the destruction of ecosystem, it's because of changing climatic conditions and a dramatic increase in carbon dioxide may destroy our ecosystem. Okay, so the climate change as well as the increase of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere can destroy our ecosystem. So it may affect the supplies of fresh water, clean air, fuel and energy resources, food, medicine and other matters on which we depend upon for our survival. For our survival, we are dependent on some of the basic requirement like fresh water, clean air, fuel and energy resources, right? Food, medicine and other matters. All right. So this because of the climate change and the increase in carbon dioxide, it may directly affect to the supply of all these matters which we depend upon for our survival. Okay, so these are the various impact of global warming, that is climate change, right? Then it also affects the oceans. It also affects it's also responsible for the bleaching of corals. It also affects to the animals and as well as plants. It also destructs the it causes destruction to ecosystem. Now, the next topic we are going to see is now the ways to reduce global warming. Okay, there would be some of the ways through which we can reduce the global warming. We will be talking about various ways to reduce the global warming under this section. We have seen that many of the various chemicals and various gases present in the atmosphere are responsible for the global warming. So when we talk about carbon dioxide, it is nearly half of the greenhouse gases. The best way to solve the problems would be use of energy such as wind, hydroelectricity, geothermal, solar, tidal and nuclear energy, etc. So if we are using such energies like wind energy, hydroelectricity, geothermal, solar, tidal and nuclear energy, then the amount of carbon dioxide, the release of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere will decrease. Okay, this all various sources of energy, they do not produce carbon dioxide. Okay, another step, important step that would stop the emission of other greenhouse gases, like for example the conservation of forest, reduced industrial pollution, reduced release of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, etc. And by taking measures to save the ozone layer from the further depletion by controlling CFCs release in the atmosphere. So uh, conservation of forest means preserving or saving the forest, then to reduce the pollution which is emitted by the industries, then also to reduce the carbon dioxide being emitted out by the into the atmosphere by the industries, then we also need to take some of the measures to control the chlorofluoro carbon release into the atmosphere, which is due to the refrigerators. Okay, the refrigerators which are not in use can solve the problems to some extent. Okay, it can't overall solve all the problems and reduce the global warming. To some extent it can solve the problems. Now the next thing The next topic is international efforts to control greenhouse effect. What are the international efforts on the worldwide? What are some of the efforts being done to control this greenhouse effect? If you see the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, that is abbreviated UNFCCC, the Convention on Climate Change sets an overall framework for all the countries. In this convention, it was agreed that the future global warming should be limited to below 2 degree Celsius or 3.6 degree Fahrenheit relative to the pre-industrial level. So here they all are into an agreement of to the being limited to below 2 degree Celsius to the pre-industrial level. Now, the climate change convention was held at the Rio Earth Summit in June 1992. Okay, this you need to remember, in Rio Earth Summit in June 1992, the climate change convention was held. It was signed by 154 nations who agreed to prevent the devastating impact of pollution causing the greenhouse effect. So this 154 nations, they agreed to bring a stop to the pollution causing the greenhouse effect. Okay. Now here you can see the global emissions, the percentage of various gases. 57% of carbon dioxide, which includes fossil fuel use, then 17% of carbon dioxide, which includes deforestation and decaying of bones and etc. Then 14% methane and 8% nitrous oxide. Now the next is the Kyoto Protocol. Countries agreed to cut the greenhouse gas emission by 5.4%. Now, various countries, they agreed to cut the greenhouse effect emission by 5.4%. Now the next one is the Global Environmental Facility, that is GEF. It was set up in 1991 to facilitate a global environment cooperation between developed and developing countries. Now this was set up in 1991, global environmental cooperation between developed and developing countries. The main objective of GEF was to reduce of greenhouse effect on the atmosphere, to protect biological diversity, international water, protection of international waters, and to reduce the depletion of ozone layer. So the main objective of GEF are this four, that is to reduce the greenhouse, to reduce ozone layer depletion, to protect the international waters, and protection of biological diversity. Okay, so this was all about the chapter atmosphere. Hope everything is clear to you. If any doubts, you can message me to my personal number. Thank you. Have a nice day.